Do you think they got a chance of winning the league with these signings? Can
Yeah.
Barcelona be stopped?
I mean, maybe it might be a case of too many players coming in at the same time and just too much of a transfer influx. Just depends how they integrate and how Zidane manages that integration. Because Barcelona, I don't think have made too many changes apart from Frankie de Jong being one of the key signings. Messi is reaching that age where he's 31 now. Is he?
Yeah.
So I mean, he's still performing at the top level. So I'm trying to see how they're going to challenge Barcelona. But yeah, I mean, they have to just wait and see how they get on next season. If they can make that really good start.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect to see them performing at their true potential until maybe towards the end of this year or start of next year.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned some of the signings from Portugal. You got JOAO FELIX.
Yes, which we'll come on to now. So Real Madrid, I don't think they're going to win the league.
It's Barcelona domination.
Who knows what's going to happen? But then again, if Messi's injured for 9 months, then they've got a chance. So, moving on. As Stuttgart's goal has just raised the issue.
Do you like that kind of link there?
Lovely, mate. Very professional. JOAO FELIX, arguably not the biggest name to be transferred, but the highest potential, let's say. I've been very impressed with JOAO FELIX. I heard about him a couple of years ago. He'd made small appearances at the end of the season before last, made a bigger impact this year, playing a lot more games, as you can see there for Benfica, 26 matches, 15 goals, 9 assists. For an 18-year-old, it's very impressive. And personally, I think £113 million is a good price for someone of his potential, his skill. I know it's very soon to be dubbing this guy one of the best players in the future. But I mean, for this kind of price at this age, you're looking at Ballon d'Or in the next 10 years or so.
I think I take it differently. I think it's just too much, and it's just another sign of how the world of football is just gone completely wacky. I mean, what makes you think? What makes you think is value for money? What's he done to warrant?
No, I didn't say it's value for money. I'm saying someone with this record, this potential.
But which record though? He scored. He had a good season last year.
Well, he's 18 and he's played 26 league games for Benfica.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a good season. He's had a good season for Benfica, but I think you need to have a bit more of a track record to warrant that kind of money. If you had that kind of impact, let's say in the Premier League, which is a whole different kettle of fish, then you can maybe argue if that fee isn't completely out of sync. But I mean, he's definitely a good player, an amazing player. I've seen a few games of Benfica, and I was impressed with him too. I think the hat-trick against Eintracht Frankfurt kind of made people, listen and pay attention to what he was doing. But I'm also that's one of the reasons why I think Real Madrid Zidane will find it very difficult this year when he goes back to managing a whole season, because you've got Atletico Madrid that are spending a crazy amount of money on players. JOAO FELIX is one of them. We've also got a few veterans like Hector Herrera that have gone from Porto to Madrid. You've got Felipe Monteiro from Porto as well. So you've got some seasoned veterans there, because they've had to replace players like Juan Fran, that I think 35 or 36 for right back. Who else has left this year?
Griezmann should be leaving.
Griezmann will be leaving, so they'll have to plug the gap somewhere. But I don't know if JOAO FELIX will be able to go straight in and have the same impact that Griezmann had.
But the argument that I have, I mean, again, it's all about what's going to happen in the future. But if JOAO FELIX ends up being like as good as Zidane,
exactly, then that money would have been well spent. But that's a very big if. It's a very big if.
Yeah, but how do you what's the word? How do you buy a player like that then? If they're not going to cost 113 million, do you think Benfica should release him for 20?
No.
They think if they have a Zidane, that's why it's 113 million.
Yeah.
And although he hasn't reached those heights yet, Kylian Mbappe went for 180 million for having one good season in France.
Yeah, but he's worth it.
Because
he demonstrated it not just in the league, in Liga, which you'd say,
since then he's demonstrated.
But he also demonstrated it that year in the Champions League. Do you remember that game against Man City where Kylian Mbappe played? That year that they beat Man City at the Etihad.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, so he demonstrated it in different levels. He scored, obviously he scored more goals, but he's a striker, obviously.
Yeah.
But he demonstrated it for the national team, for in the Champions League and also the league. So
but that was after the transfer. France, he didn't do anything until that point.
And did he play that year? No,
he played a couple of times, but he wasn't the main man.
But he also demonstrated.
He became that after that season with PSG.
But he demonstrated it in the Champions League that year as well. So I think that argument for that fee is stronger than for a player like.
But again, he did it for 1 year. He just did it for that one season. Yeah. He could have been a flop the next season, you know. Adebayor did it in the Champions League. You wouldn't fucking pay 200 million for him, would you?
No, definitely not.
But no, I mean, the way I see it, João, I mean, personally, because I've seen Felix play a few times, I think he's a fantastic player.
Okay.
I think 113 million is well worth it. He's gonna make a big difference to that team.
Make sure you record this, so next year we'll come back and see.
This time next year, you will see João Felix worth 200 million. Anyway, and I think the fact that Griezmann's left, they're gonna push João Felix as part of the first team.
What do you make of Barcelona being called out by Atletico Madrid for their approach? What's been so controversial about the approach that they've made for him? Because I've heard that they're really cheesed off with the way they've gone about the transfer business.
From what I understand, they had agreed a contract in March already. And
verbally?
Paperwork and done, everything with the agent. Like, everything had been agreed, which they can't do. You're not allowed to do that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was the day before, the day after a big Champions League game that Griezmann was playing in. So that's what they're not happy about. And the presumption that, you know, okay, Atletico are going to sell to Barcelona. Yeah. It's not necessarily the case.
Yeah.
They don't have to sell it to him. Sell Griezmann to Barcelona. So I think that's the main reason why they're a bit cheesed off. I think Griezmann's sister is actually his agent, and they called her out as well on it. So Lord knows what's going to happen. Barcelona, from what I understand, on Friday, so two days ago now, on Sunday, from what I understand, Barcelona had released a statement confirming all this, and also stated that they want to see Griezmann report back to training on Monday. So as much as he loves to be centre of attention and releasing videos about I'm going to stay, I'm going to go, and all this rubbish, he looks like he's been disciplined by Atletico Madrid, and we'll see if he turns up for training on Monday. But that's what the order's been anyway. So yeah, that's the reason why they're not too happy with that. But yeah, anyway, back to João Felix. I think it's going to be a good addition to the team. One Champions League game, so we'll be interested to see how he gets on at Atletico. And yeah, Los Colchoneros has put a lot of money, and hopefully it turns out well for them.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of pressure on them to win the league, and Simeone is desperate to win more silverware. I know he's been frustrated in the Champions League, but I think the league right now is something that they can aspire to win.
Yeah, exactly. And as Stuart mentioned, there has been outgoings at Atletico Madrid, and if we take a quick look at these particular three midfielders that are making moves this summer, significant signings for all these clubs. Firstly, Rodri has left Atletico Madrid and has joined Man City for a fee reported to be in excess of £62.8 million. Rodri, in my opinion, is going to be a great addition for that team. Man City have relied a lot on Fernandinho the last couple of years, and as good as he's been, his knees can only carry him so long. He's getting on a bit as a footballer. We've noticed that a lot last season with the amount of injuries that he had and being in and out of the team because of knee problems and things like that. Rodri is not the same player, but he does the job. I was saying to Stuart earlier, for me, he reminds me of a cross between Jorginho and Busquets. Now, I'm not saying he's as good as them. It's as good as them, but he does the job. He likes to distribute the ball a lot. When he was at Atletico Madrid, he would receive the ball a lot and get rid of it quickly. Very efficient on the ball. Interceptions are very good. Gets his tackle in as well.
These players are usually the unsung heroes of the team, so you probably won't see him, doing anything amazing. But he's a vital cog in the function of the team.
He's important, to the rhythm of the team, and that's what I think the role of Fernandinho was playing a lot in that midfield for Man City, and for me anyway, that's the most important position for Pep Guardiola. He used that a lot with Busquets. Busquets was his main man. As simple and as standard as Busquets' style of play seems to be, he does the right job. He lays the ball off, great control, great vision, calm under pressure. Rodri's a very similar player. He was doing that job as well at Villarreal when he went there. Surprised that Rodri's gone after only one season at Atletico Madrid, but obviously with the money offered by Man City, it's understandable to see why they've gone. And yeah, as I said, that's going to be a really important position for Pep Guardiola.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think he'll make a success of it in England, or have you not seen enough of him to kind of make that decision?
Yeah, I've not seen enough of him to be honest. But you're right about Fernandinho's legs. he's getting on now in age, and
I think especially last season.
And he's also a very physical, competitive player. So perhaps that will show his years up even more. But I mean, I think it's that kind of role that usually goes really kind of hidden. So it'll be hard to kind of gauge in terms of how successful he's been. So you just have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good move for Rodri, especially working under Guardiola. He's got the potential to be one of the best midfielders in that position. And as I mentioned, Guardiola's most important player on the pitch, really. Without someone like that on the field, it's kind of hard to transition between defence and attack, given how Man City like to play from the back. So yeah, interesting there. But I think one of the most exciting transfers in the Premier League, at least, is got to be the arrival of TANGUY and Ndombele.
You would say that, wouldn't you?
I mean, as a Spurs fan, obviously, if you follow me on Twitter, you'll know I'm a Tottenham fan. But just in general, having a player like that in the Premier League is fantastic. He suits the Premier League, kind of like how Kante kind of turned up in England and kind of done its thing.
I think for some reason we like in the Premier League a player that's energetic, can run up and down.
Well, because that's the style of play in the league.
And it's really quick, and then I think that's the kind of football that will be suited down to Ndombele.
Yeah,
and I don't think he did start off very well in his career at K.I.N.E.T.I.K. He kind of had issues there, and he was criticised for having a bad kind of attitude towards training. Apparently, wasn't really a morning person, but he seems to have picked up where everyone thought he should be, and I'm looking forward to seeing him play because I think that's going to be maybe Eric Dier, and Vincent Wanyama.
Wanyama, Dyer, Winks, Sissoko, all those four are vying for the same positions in the field. So
yeah, so he's got competition, but I think he'll be able to surpass those players and nail the first team spot.
It reminds me a lot of I think I said she likes Sissoko, but with technique and control.
It's not hard to be better than Sissoko in terms of technique.
No, but to Sissoko, I mean, as much as the BS that he got a couple of seasons ago when he first signed for us,
he did improve a lot.
He wasn't great, but the last 12 months he's been fantastic. He's been one of Spurs' most important players, and the job that he does in terms of the energy in the midfield, winning balls and also carrying the ball forward. He's been great, but Ndombele has that little bit. Ndombele has that little bit more
finesse.
Bit more finesse. Not even that, because sometimes when you see him with the ball and the way he gets past, it's almost like, oh, he got lucky to do that. But he does it so often. That's just his style of play.
It's got to be something like
and his vision is fantastic. He knows how to send a pinpoint pass.
Basically like a Yaya Toure.
Exactly. Imagine the mix between Yaya Toure, a young Yaya Toure, and Sissoko. To me, he plays like that. So it's going to be very exciting to see how he blends into that team. Yeah, and obviously someone's going to have to leave, and I have a feeling it might be Wanyama. I don't think Dyer's going to go. Poch likes Dyer a lot. The fact that he brought Dyer on in the Champions League final when Spurs were losing kind of demonstrates how much he trusts Dyer. Not that he's going to change the game in that sense, but yeah, I think Wanyama could be the one to be going out, and Dyer, Winks, and Sissoko staying in that midfield. So it'll be very interesting. See how much of an impact he will make.
What about Eriksen? Because I think from what I've been reading, I think Real Madrid have one more big signing left to make. There's a talk about maybe Pogba or Christian Eriksen.
I think Pogba's more likely than Eriksen now, just because the Eriksen thing is still lingering. Nothing's happened. There's been no bids made as far as we know anyway officially.
But there is noise about Pogba.
But there is a lot of noise about Pogba from what his agent's been saying last couple of days. How he wants to pastures new. How Pogba came out, I think, a month ago, even saying that he would like a new challenge.
Making it obvious that he possibly goes.
Yeah, and it's not like he wants to go to Salford City and try and get them to the Premier League and things like that. That's the challenge. Not going to Real Madrid and just going through the motions. But yeah, I mean, it's been unfortunate because Pogba, for me, I really liked Pogba when he was at Juventus. I liked him when he was at Man United when he was a young player. But it just hasn't worked out for him. Maybe the role that he was given is not the same. I see him more as an attacking midfielder. He's playing more of as a centre mid holding.
But you kind of saw the better side of him when Mourinho left and Solskjaer came in, and you can see him. The assists went up, the goals went up.
Because he was given that freedom. He was given that freedom to actually move forward.
And people were saying this is the Pogba that we wanted to see, and I'm not sure where it kind of fell not fell apart, but kind of whittled down to kind of the old Pogba under Mourinho towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't get how the levels dropped. I know not just Pogba, the whole team really.
Yeah, maybe they got sussed out by the opposition because they went on a 13-game, 14-game spell where they were just winning and you couldn't see where the next defeat was going to come.
It was I could be wrong. Man United fans, please leave a comment. But I'm pretty sure since the PSG.
Yeah.
No, they won that game.
Yeah, they won that game. Yeah.
What did they lose the next game too?
Was it a league game? They won. They lost the league.
No. The next Champions League. Who knocked them out?
It was Barcelona, wasn't it? Was it Barcelona?
Anyway, but for me, the turning point was after that PSG win. It felt like they gave so much. They put so much into that game, physically and mentally, and given how the VAR decisions were going in that game, it was all.
Maybe they got carried away. They just thought that this is it. This shows that it's our fate.
I don't know because it wasn't even a case that they were going gun ho and trying to play sexy football, and it just kind of fell apart that way. They just didn't look. They looked lethargic. They didn't look that energetic. They didn't look, Solskjaer's at the wheel. That kind of stuff that was going on when he first arrived, and it just
too carried away.
Yeah, and it's just disappointing to see a club like Manchester United to fall down like that because they've got good players. It's just not been working out for them, and even with Solskjaer in, it didn't last the whole season. As good as it was at the beginning when Solskjaer first arrived, it didn't last the whole season. But saying that, I do think he's the right man for the job. I do think he does need to stay at Man United another season at least. Give him a whole year and see what we go from there. And it's good to see that from what I'm hearing anyway, that the board are backing the manager.
Yeah.
So interesting to see Paul Pogba if he's going to stay or not. Eriksen if he's going to stay or not. Personally speaking, I'm going on a long shot here. I think Alderweireld and Eriksen are going to sign new contracts.
So what does that mean for players like Davinson Sanchez? Obviously, we have some kind of an affinity with Davinson Sanchez given his background, but do you think he's going to start playing second fiddle to?
He does anyway.
But he was starting a few games last year
because of injuries. So that's the reason why he had a.
It was a big signing when he came.
Massive, yeah, and he played a lot more the season before last because of Alderweireld's injuries. And in my opinion, I thought he was fantastic. He did so well. People say, "Oh, he makes some mistakes." Who doesn't? Alderweireld made a mistake against PSV, which nearly cost us a Champions League status. This year just gone. It happens. Alderweireld had a terrible season, in my opinion, the season before last. Whenever he came in, West Ham in the League Cup, Rochdale in the FA Cup, he made mistakes, and people make mistakes. Personally speaking, Davinson Sanchez, as a 23-year-old centre back, is one of the best in the world. And the fact that he's been linked to teams like Barcelona and Juventus in the last 2 or 3 months show what potential he's got. So I think Sanchez still going to play second fiddle. But Vertonghen and Alderweireld have that record of being out injured. He's going to get his games. And given how Pochettino wants to push on with a quality squad, he's not going to let go of Sanchez.
And we've got Juan Foyth as well. He's been impressive as well when he's come on.
Honestly, Juan Foyth, in my opinion, he should look to do what he did with Dyer. Foyth playing as a right back, centre back, and then move and transition him into the central defensive midfield role. Because he's perfect for that role. The fact that he loves playing with the ball and coming out and trying with the risky passes, that central midfield that is not a centre back kind of trait. So it will be good to see that, and for Argentina, I think he'd be good in that position for Argentina. That's my take on that. And then finally, as you can see there, Frenkie de Jong, a fantastic midfield talent for Ajax, was a massive influence in how they got to the Champions League semi-final. I think he's a great player. I've liked him for the last couple of years, him as well as Van der Beek. But De Jong's made the step forward and is he making a name for himself at Barcelona, hopefully next season. Have you seen much of De Jong?
No, I haven't. Yeah, we're talking about this. I think you got some sort of subscription where you watch a lot of games from different leagues.
I mean, if there is such thing as a second team, I tend to follow Ajax a lot. So.
Oh really?
I've heard about De Jong for years now, for the last 2-3 years.
I watched Ajax last season and I was blown away with the football they were playing in the Champions League. That's really the only time I get to see them. But I think the game for me, the game of the season last year was Ajax versus Spurs. Yeah. Forget Liverpool Barcelona. It was a great game as well, but I think Ajax Spurs was the game to watch last year, and the way that team played, Ziyech, De Ligt was amazing. De Jong was good. It's just. Do
you know what they reminded me a little bit of last season? And obviously it's not the same thing because Spurs didn't get to the semi, but Tottenham when Pochettino first got into the Champions League.
Oh really? Why?
Young players had a lot of potential. He had someone like Harry Kane winning Golden Boot in the Premier League. Dele Alli was talked about a lot. Eriksen has always been moved to the debate being one of the best assist players, midfielders, I should say, in Europe. So it was kind of like how Ajax were coming along. They had this young team, Neres, De Jong, Van der Beek, Ziyech, and they just fell at the final. They would have surpassed us in a sense had they got to the final, because that's would have been an amazing achievement, considering the financial status of a club like Ajax. But
after watching the final, I kind of regret Spurs having won that game.
The Ajax game.
Yeah, because I think the Champions League final would have been a lot more open had it been Ajax playing.
No, but you're right in that sense, because I thought the same thing. It would have been interesting to see how Ajax. But then again, if Ajax would have conceded a penalty after 30 seconds, the game would have gone exactly the same way. Liverpool were too cautious. They didn't want to attack. Spurs just couldn't break down that defence.
Do you buy into the argument that it was too long? It took 3 weeks for the finals to be played after the season ended.
That didn't help.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say it's the main reason.
No, but
that doesn't help at all. And you kind of saw that in Liverpool's performance. They didn't look
the usual self.
Yeah, they didn't look fresh off fresh. Yeah, they might have had a nice rest and prepare for the game more. But then again, you might be thinking about the game too much. You might be too cool, and I think that's why in the end the game became too cautious. They had lost the final last year. They went 1-0 up within a minute. They know Spurs are a threat. Spurs always give Liverpool problems. Even last season, they lost twice in the league. Very lucky for Liverpool to have won those games.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I think Klopp and Liverpool are very cautious, and the fact that Spurs just couldn't break through, didn't have any ideas to kind of get past that formidable defence. Really, it was inevitable.
Van Dijk, you can't get past Van Dijk.
It's not even just that, but the players like Alexander-Arnold and Robertson are fantastic. The way they attack, and Spurs had to be cautious of that as well. So it was, for me personally, Spurs deserve to lose, but that 30-second penalty cost the game massively for the neutral, really.
Yeah, definitely.
It completely changed the complex of how that game was being played out. So it's unfortunate, and it's unfortunate because it's kind of like when you look back at the Champions League final now, it's kind of like, yeah, Liverpool won it like it was a formality.
Yeah,
because of the way the game played out. If they played out the way the Ajax game played out without the last minute goal, you could say, wow, that was a good final.
Yeah,
but it was just...
I think if you ask people next year, when they're talking about, what was last year's Champions League final, people would actually struggle to remember who played. There's so much anticipation.
Not who played, but what happened. Because I can say to you now, Liverpool Real Madrid 2 years ago, what happened? Oh, Real Madrid Bale overhead kick, Karius, Salah and Ramos,
Nothing really happened.
Nothing happened. The only thing you can say is the penalty after 30 seconds.
There was so much anticipation before the game. There's going to be 4 English teams in the final, and both games, failed to live up to expectations. Even Chelsea Arsenal was a bit of a damn squid in the first half. It got kind of livened up after the 70th minute when there was more goals. But again, the whole stadium debacle with the stadium at Baku being half empty, they were giving out, I think, apparently free entries to fans to try and get more people to come in. Yeah. So I think that those games really don't stand out for. It's a shame as well because you had 4 English teams in 2 finals. I can't remember the last time there was 4 teams from the same country in 2 finals of major European competitions.
Yeah, I mean, the Europa League final was dead, but at least there were goals in it. At least there was something happening.
Yeah.
The Spurs one was so tight. The first goal was a penalty after 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Spurs
it was a harsh penalty.
Yeah, and then obviously the final nail in the coffin was Origi's finish. That was a fantastic goal. Spurs just switched off at the back, and just unfortunate really. But Liverpool well deserved to win that.
You see, even I forgot about that goal. I thought it was a 1-0.
Because everyone thinks about the penalty.
Yeah, everyone thinks about the penalty.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate. And I think that's one thing that hits the Spurs fans the most. The fact that realistically, that was Liverpool's worst performance of the season. And we didn't capitalise. We didn't take advantage of it. And it's just unfortunate.
I'm so surprised why Lucas Moura didn't start. I thought it was...
It's all relative now, isn't it? If he would have started and Kane on the bench and then 2-0...
I would have been, okay, fair enough, it didn't work out. But I think Harry Kane having to play for, 2.5 months maybe. And Lucas Moura having, being in the back of rich vein of form and that performance against Ajax.
But
he would have started that game, even though it doesn't fit with he's not a striker. I would have still played Lucas Moura and then have Kane come on for the second half and have been more of an impact player.
Look at it this way. Imagine Liverpool-Barcelona semi-final, Champions League. Messi's been injured for 2 months at that point. Imagine this, right? Malcolm comes in and scores a hat-trick against Liverpool. Barca get to the final. Messi's fit again. Do you pay Malcolm or do you pay Messi? And I'm not comparing Messi to Kane.
The same.
But Kane is Spurs' Messi. He's their best player.
Yeah.
And not just as in he's good, like fucking Vardy is for Leicester. But
he
is outstanding player.
But I think Messi brings more to the equation than Kane. Kane's a really good finisher. He's a good player.
But the game is about scoring goals.
Yeah, but I think Messi, he starts play from the back. He starts play from the middle of the pitch. He kind of roams around. It doesn't stay fixed in one position. Whereas Messi can have more. Yeah, Messi can have more an effect in the game than Harry Kane. I think.
Yeah, but
if Kane has a bad game,
Spurs lose less when Kane's playing.
Yeah, but I think those are two different examples. And even then, I still think maybe start Marco and have Messi come on if Barcelona was losing. But I mean, it's good to say this now, and now that the game's finished, it's good to look at hindsight. But
that's the kind of the problem because Spurs don't really have Galacticos. Let's say we've got really good players. We've got Eriksen, we've got Ali, we've got Lucas, as you said there. We've got good players, but they're not Galacticos. So.
No.
Kane is our Galactico, and that's why he has to play.
And that makes it so amazing. That makes it even the feat of getting to the final with that squad so amazing. The fact that they haven't spent almost anything for 12, 18 months.
And if I remember rightly, Spurs are the first team to get to a European Cup final who haven't had a history of winning that tournament since 1984, which again shows how well Spurs did to get there.
Yeah. No one's going to take that away from them. They did amazing to get to that stage.
Anyway, as we digress of stuff that happened in June, we carry on with the transfer talk. And so as we said, then Rodri, Ndombele, and FRENKIE to Jong will be very interesting to see how they perform next season. So, just going to round off the talk now with a little look at the Copa America.